For decades, eggs have been one of the most controversial foods in nutrition. One moment, they're praised as a perfect source of protein, and the next, they're blamed for clogged arteries and heart disease. Many people still hesitate before cracking an egg into a pan, worried about what it might be doing to their cholesterol. Today, we are cutting through the confusion. By analyzing the latest scientific evidence, we're going to explain what eggs actually do to your cholesterol, why they were misunderstood for so long, and how you can enjoy them safely as part of a heart-healthy diet. Before we dive deeper, take a moment to support this channel. If you find this kind of evidence-based health content useful, please like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future uploads. Also, be sure to check the description box below, where we've listed the sources and references used for this video so you can explore the research yourself. Let's start with the core question. Are eggs really bad for your cholesterol? For many years, eggs were labeled as unhealthy because they contain dietary cholesterol. A single large egg contains around 200 milligrams of cholesterol, which is roughly 2/3 of the old recommended daily limit of 300 milligrams. Based on this number alone, eggs were assumed to directly raise blood cholesterol and increase the risk of heart disease. But modern research has revealed that this assumption was overly simplistic and, in many cases, wrong. The real culprit behind rising cholesterol levels is not dietary cholesterol itself, but saturated fat. A landmark study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2025 brought this issue back into the spotlight. Researchers wanted to answer a question that nutrition scientists have debated for years. What has a bigger impact on LDL cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol, dietary cholesterol, or saturated fat? To test this, scientists studied 61 healthy adults and placed them on 3 different diets over a period of 5 weeks each. By the end of the study, 48 participants had completed all 3 dietary phases. Each diet was carefully designed to isolate the effects of cholesterol and saturated fat. The first was a control diet that was high in both dietary cholesterol and saturated fat. Participants ate no more than 1 egg per week. The second was an egg-rich diet that was high in dietary cholesterol but low in saturated fat. Participants consumed 2 eggs every single day. The third was an egg-free diet that was low in dietary cholesterol but high in saturated fat, with no eggs included at all. The results were striking. Saturated fat was clearly associated with increases in LDL cholesterol. Dietary cholesterol, on the other hand, was not. Even more surprising, when compared to the control diet, the egg-rich diet actually lowered LDL cholesterol by an average of 5.7 milligrams per deciliter. The egg-free diet, despite having less dietary cholesterol, did not produce this benefit. In other words, eggs themselves were not the problem, saturated fat was. John Buckley, PhD, the senior author of the study, explained that most foods high in cholesterol are also high in saturated fat, which is why cholesterol was blamed for so long. Bacon, sausage, butter, and processed meats often appear alongside eggs in meals, and these foods are loaded with saturated fat. Eggs were guilty by association. This conclusion aligns with what many cardiologists and nutrition experts have suspected for years. Dr. Sean Heffron, a preventative cardiologist at NYU Langone Heart, has stated that saturated fat plays a much larger role in raising LDL cholesterol than dietary cholesterol ever did. To understand why this matters, we need to clarify the difference between dietary cholesterol and blood cholesterol. Dietary cholesterol is the cholesterol you consume from foods like eggs, shellfish, and dairy products. Blood cholesterol, on the other hand, refers to the cholesterol circulating in your bloodstream, including LDL and HDL cholesterol. LDL contributes to plaque buildup in arteries, while HDL helps remove cholesterol from the blood. Here's the key point. Most of the cholesterol in your blood does not come from the food you eat. Your liver produces the majority of it. When you consume a lot of saturated fat, your liver responds by producing more cholesterol and clearing less LDL cholesterol from your bloodstream. This is why saturated fat is so strongly linked to higher LDL levels. Dietary cholesterol behaves differently. When intake increases, the body often compensates by reducing its own cholesterol production. In simple terms, your body adapts. This is why nutrition experts now say that dietary cholesterol isn't the villain it was once thought to be. Melissa Mrose-Planels, a registered dietitian nutritionist and spokesperson for the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, has emphasized that eggs can comfortably fit into a balanced, heart-healthy diet for most people. So where does that leave eggs? The current scientific consensus is much more forgiving than it was in the past. For healthy individuals, eating about 1 egg a day is considered safe and does not increase the risk of heart disease. Eggs are nutrient-dense, affordable, and packed with high-quality protein, vitamins, minerals, and compounds like choline that support brain and liver health. However, this does not mean eggs are completely risk-free for everyone. If you already have high cholesterol or certain medical conditions, the situation can be different. Cardiologist Michael Miller from Penn Medicine has pointed out that the results of the egg study may not apply to people with existing cholesterol disorders. One such condition is familial hypercholesterolemia, a genetic disorder that affects the body's ability to regulate LDL cholesterol. In people with this condition, dietary cholesterol can have a much stronger impact on blood cholesterol levels because the liver cannot compensate effectively. Other conditions, such as hypothyroidism, some kidney diseases, and the use of certain medications can also raise LDL cholesterol. For individuals in these higher risk categories, moderation becomes more important. Experts often recommend limiting egg consumption to 4 or 5 eggs per week rather than 1 a day. There are also practical strategies for enjoying eggs while minimizing cholesterol concerns. One option is to use egg whites more frequently. Most of the cholesterol and saturated fat in eggs is found in the yolk, while the whites provide protein with virtually no fat or cholesterol. Mixing whole eggs with additional egg whites can reduce overall cholesterol intake while maintaining taste and texture. Another critical factor is how eggs are prepared and what they are eaten with. Eggs cooked in butter and served with processed meats create a very different nutritional profile than eggs boiled, poached, or cooked in olive oil alongside vegetables and whole grains. The surrounding foods often matter more than the eggs themselves. This brings us back to saturated fat. Regardless of how you feel about eggs, everyone benefits from limiting saturated fat intake. According to the American Heart Association, most adults should consume no more than 13 grams of saturated fat per day to support heart health. This means paying close attention to processed foods, fried foods, fatty meats, and full-fat dairy products. Eggs, by comparison, contain relatively modest amounts of saturated fat and can actually be part of a diet that improves cholesterol markers when they replace less healthy options. So, why does the egg myth still persist? Nutrition advice evolves slowly, and outdated messages often linger in public awareness long after science has moved on. For decades, eggs were easy to blame because their cholesterol content was obvious and measurable. It took years of controlled studies to untangle the separate effects of saturated fat and dietary cholesterol, and those findings are only now reaching the mainstream. There is also an important reminder here about context. No single food determines your cholesterol levels or your heart health. What matters most is your overall dietary pattern, lifestyle, genetics, and metabolic health. Eggs can be either helpful or harmful depending on the bigger picture. To summarize, modern research shows that eggs are not the cholesterol villains they were once believed to be. Saturated fat is the primary dietary driver of elevated LDL cholesterol, not the cholesterol found in eggs. For most healthy people, eggs can be safely enjoyed as part of a balanced diet, and in some cases, they may even improve cholesterol profiles. If you have high cholesterol or a medical condition that affects cholesterol metabolism, it's wise to be more cautious and consult a healthcare professional about your egg intake. And for everyone, focusing on reducing saturated fat while choosing whole, minimally processed foods remains one of the most powerful steps you can take for heart health. If you found this breakdown helpful and informative, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more science-based nutrition and health content. And once again, check the description box below for the studies and references we used for this video so you can dig deeper into the research yourself. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next video.